There's a belief that too many artists fall for, and I used to be one of them. The idea that if you just had the best art supplies, your work would instantly improve, that your colors would be richer, your lines smoother, and your final piece would magically look more professional. It's easy to believe this when you see professional artists using high-end materials. The way their expensive paints glide across the canvases, the way their premium colored pencil layer effortlessly, or how their $50 sketchbook seems to hold everything together so perfectly. It makes you think, if I had those, my art would be so much better. And believing they will is one of the biggest traps you will fall into. I know because I fell into it myself. When I first got serious about art, I thought my biggest problem was my materials. I was using a cheap set of color pencils, and every time I struggled with blending or getting details right, I told myself, it's not me, it's my supplies. So I saved up and bought one of the most expensive sets on the market, the kind that professional artists raved about. I was convinced that this was going to be a game changer. The day they arrived, I was so excited. I opened them up expecting my next drawing to instantly look 10 times better. But as soon as I started them, I realized something. My art didn't magically improve. Sure, the colors were a bit richer and they blended a little smoother, but the core problems in my art were still there. My proportions were off, my shading looked muddy, and I still didn't fully understand color theory. It hit me hard. The problem was never my materials, the problem was me. There's a reason this idea is so popular. Art supply companies want you to believe that better materials will instantly improve your work. That's how they sell you more products. They put professional artists in their ads, making you think, if I use what they use, I'll be just as good as them. But the reality is, those artists aren't great because of their supplies. They're great because they spent years developing their skills. If an absolute beginner buys the most expensive paint set in the world, they will suddenly create a masterpiece? No. But if a skilled artist uses a basic, cheap set, they can still make something incredible. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the tools, it's about how you use them. I see this all the time with beginner artists. They become obsessed with collecting supplies instead of actually making art. They spend hours researching the best markers and the best paper, the best brushes, convinced that once they find them, their art will finally improve. But that's just an excuse. Instead of sitting down and putting in the work, they're distracting themselves with shopping. It feels productive because they're still doing something art-related, but in reality, they're just avoiding the hard part, actually practicing. I know this because I did it too. After my expensive color pencil purchase didn't magically fix my art, I started looking for the next thing that might. Maybe my sketchbook was the problem, maybe my eraser, maybe I needed a different kind of paper. I wasted so much time and money trying to buy my way into improvement, when what I really needed was to focus on my fundamentals. Here's something a little controversial. Starting with cheap supplies will actually make you a better artist. Why? Because when you don't have luxury tools to rely on, you have to think more. You have to find creative ways to blend, mix colors, and work with what you have. You develop a deeper understanding of your medium instead of letting high-end materials do the work for you. I eventually forced myself to go back to cheaper supplies, and something amazing happened. I got better. Not because my materials were worse, but because I stopped relying on them to save my art. I had to actually learn how to control pressure, how to layer properly, how to make colors pop without needing a set that costs hundreds of dollars. And when I eventually did go back to higher end supplies, I actually knew how to use them properly. If expensive supplies don't make you better, what does then? For one, practice. No fancy pencil will replace the thousands of hours it takes to improve. For two, learning fundamentals. So proportions, shading, composition, and color theory matter more than any brand of paint. Experimenting is also another way to improve. So try different techniques, push yourself, and work through mistakes. That's how real growth actually happens. And the last thing is creativity. The best artists can create something amazing with just about anything because they rely on their skills, not their tools. If you've been telling yourself, I'll get better when I can afford better supplies, stop doing that. That's just an excuse. You don't need the most expensive pencils, paints, or sketchbooks. You need to sit down and create right now with what you have. Because in the end, it's not the tools that make the artists, it's the work they put in.